I get it.
Mbijan aganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. Kosa. Nsila ID soto.
Ah, that's sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Ah,
mbare mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Ah, janno mi yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Ha. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola sota Gambia jam.
Ha?
Ha. Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kono kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Janno number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wala nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi ma ni domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Ha e wo moyo diat ha.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.
Of owning your dream homes. Each
Secretary General Gambia Red Cross here with us. We is a very close.
I get it.
Mbijan aganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. Kosa. Nsila ID soto.
Ah, that's sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Ah,
mbare mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Ah, janno mi yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Ha. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola sota Gambia jam.
Ha?
Ha. Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Janno number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wala nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi ma ni domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Ha e wo moyo diat ha.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.
of owning your dream homes, EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
When we touch down, get a broke down.
Gamtel G-Fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-Fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-Fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
Hello and welcome to the brunch on Fatou Live. I am Lavin Cham and welcome from wherever you are watching us. This is the brunch, like I said, on Fatou Live. I'm Lavin Cham. This week, well, we come to you on a very somber mood because the nation is just reeling from a natural disaster that really is said to be unprecedented in the history of the country. Nearly 10 people, almost exactly 10 people, lost their lives and homes and houses were devastated over the last 3 days. I have with me in the studio an environmental scientist and a representative from the KMC to assess and discuss the mitigating factors that this country and every citizen should do and be aware of in case we are faced with these kind of natural calamities. So without wasting time and with a very somber mood today, like I said, I cross over to my panelists. They will introduce themselves for you. Well, Malanding, Jaiteh, welcome, and Mr. Jallow from the KMC, welcome. Let me start with Mr. Jaiteh, Malanding. What do you do?
Well, thank you for having me. I am at the moment leading a project called Large Scale Ecosystem Adaptation Project. What we try to do is to respond to the scourge of climate change in general and try to help communities, primarily rural communities, actually build resilience to climate change, because we know that climate change comes with a lot of different things. It's not just one thing like the wind that we had a few days ago, that is the storm, but it also comes with many, many things, droughts and floods sometimes. So the idea is really
partner. We also have
to withstand some of this. So currently I'm a project manager for that.
Good. Well, thank you very much. We'll have more details from Mr. Jallow. Yes, welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Mr. Dodou Jallow from Kanifing Municipal Council, Department of Services, Service Manager. As you may know, we are service delivery department responsible for service delivery in the municipality, upon which these disaster issues like the municipal disaster coordinator have been housed under the Department of Services. So our role here is it affects the entire country, and we will seek our condolence to the loss of lives, to the families that are hardly affected, in particular also within our municipalities. Kanifing Municipal Council, the municipality in particular, like the area of the Malanding and Bakau, so far the area we visited.
Okay, we will come to those specifics. But let's cross over to the National Disaster Management Agency, the government agency responsible for responses or mobilizing and coordinating responses to this type of natural disasters. Now, when it happened, the agency convened a press conference where they gave details of the exact extent of the devastation and the effect it has on communities. This is Sana Dahaba. He's the executive director of the agency.
Songa Abulabi, who is also, we are working very, very closely. In addition, we have Mr. Adam representing the World Food Program. We all know that World Food Program, Red Cross, and Action Against Hunger are dependable partners of National Disaster Management Agency. The agency and the government being the primary duty bearer, the stakeholders are here to supplement and complement government's effort. We are actually in the driving seat so that the other partners can come and supplement our effort. In a nutshell, this is why we are here today, so that we brief the press and know this is the government's position and give you an overview of what's happening. North Bank is hardly hit as we are speaking now, because we recorded about 9 deaths in North Bank and West Coast 1 death. So you can see when we also look at the underlying factor of why so much damage. As we are speaking, 3,140 people have already been affected. There is 10 fatalities and 1,531 internally displaced. This is very, 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 very serious. As the assessment is ongoing, because the assessment is not an event, it's a process. Before government can determine the kind of response that the government would provide, they must have a credible and dependable data, because that's the nerve center of any response when it comes to emergency support. You rely on data, and the data has to be credible, reliable, and dependable. It is on this background that the government is actually waiting for us as an emergency institution and the partner to provide the government with the right data so that they can come up with a response that will need and will reflect the needs of the population. This is why we are here today. With us, we have the executive, we have the Secretary General Gambia Red Cross here with us. He is a very close and dependable partner. We also have Action Against Hunger, Abulabi, who is also, we are working very, very closely. In addition, we have Mr. Adam representing the World Food Program. We all know that World Food Program, Red Cross, and Action Against Hunger are dependable partners of National Disaster Management Agency. The agency and the government being the primary duty bearer, the stakeholders are here to supplement and complement government's effort. We are actually in the driving seat so that the other partners can come and supplement our effort. In a nutshell, this is why we are here today, so that we brief the press and know this is the government's position and give you an overview of what's happening. North Bank is hardly hit as we are speaking now, because we recorded about 9 deaths in North Bank and West Coast 1 death. So you can see when we also look at the underlying factor of why so much damage. We ask
of how things were going on immediately in the aftermath of the windstorm. That, as he said, 10 resulted into 10 deaths, 9 of them in the North Bank region and 1 in West Coast, Uzumbala to be exact. Mr. Jaiteh, you followed these proceedings and of course the information since the incident happened. Being an environmental scientist, what exactly did you think happened? I mean, is this just the normal rainstorm winds that we are all used to, or this is a manifestation of what experts such as yourself have been studying and warning that indeed climate change is a reality? What exactly in your experience has exactly happened?
Well, it's definitely abnormal, as we already heard the executive director saying. It is definitely one that has not been recorded in the Gambia. It may have happened, but not recorded. And certainly, it is one that has not registered so many deaths. You know, it is very, very rare to even hear people dying from storms. But this is particularly
in my lifetime.
You know, so, and even that number is the first count. We are yet to do the total count. We really don't know how far, but essentially it is part of a phenomena, a new phenomena, really. Climate change has been around us for a long, long time, because most people who are older than 50 would tell you that, oh, it used to rain 6 months in Combo. Oh, it was so, August was so heavy. Rains in August were so heavy. So all of that have slowly faded, and now we are even in the middle of, almost the middle of July, very little rain. And that is one aspect of climate change. Reduction in amount of rain, especially if you live in Western Sahel, which Gambia is part of. It's reduction in amount of rain, the increase in reliability, that is unreliability of rains. Sometimes it comes early or not coming early, too many, not too many. And also a few others, you know, because it's either droughts or floods, but there is also increased temperature, you know, as well as increase in wind, because all of these are interrelated. It is not one little thing, because there isn't enough water. Farmers cannot have more harvest. Farmers can't have harvest, so they go into the forest where it is a little bit wetter, and cut down that and cultivate. So less trees. So less trees end up opening the space where wind can just pick up. Any little wind can pick up and then becomes a storm. So these are really the very many interlinked chains that we call climate change. And in the Gambia, indeed, this is one. And it may never happen again in the year, but it could happen tomorrow. That is in the next coming week or in the next set of weather events. So it is really something that is unpredictable, and very difficult to manage.
Good. Okay, we will come to more. In the KMC, the director didn't mention KMC. Of course, he said the assessment is going on. He mentioned NBR to be the worst affected, by this incident. Yes, tell us how bad was it in the KMC?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Cham. It was so bad, so much so that when this windstorm happened, overnight, the designated elected councillors in their various wards were been informed by their communities, and some of them could not even sleep at night, especially the one at Malanding and Bakau. They went round into victims' compound, trying to share and support them all what they could, because they see that this is something that surprises us. So really, those that are hardly affected were visited. So when we came back the following morning, through the able Lordship, Lord Mayor Talib Ahmed Bensouda, he just authorized us, because he's the chairman of the municipal disaster coordinating committee. So he's the one that assigned us. So we went to do the assessment, myself with the municipal disaster coordinator. So we started with Bakau. We see fallen trees that have obstructed access road, and we have visited a compound that we have seen the rooftop was
blown. Where is it in Bakau?
In Bakau near Kachikali, just when you after Kachikali, the other Johnson, where that mosque is, that area called Kolikunda. So then from there, after doing the assessment, we even passed through the NDMA head office, because the reason why maybe they don't mention us, because they already saw us, we have already started before even they start, because we assume that there will be a lot of problems that are coming. So initially, during the dry periods, we come up with through the chairman of the health and environment, the Councillor Diba, we made first assessment. This was in March, April. So we went around, visit all the 19 wards, try to do assessment prior to the rainy season and see what best we could come up with. So luckily, when we came back,
so you had an already assessment process on, because you expected that, whether it, of course not this type of on this type of scale, but you always expected at the KMC there will always be issues with flooding and other things. So you had this process on already.
Yes. In fact, when we did that, when we were done, there was this presentation at General Council, and it was documented, and each of the council, your area of problems were captured, and before it was taken to General Council, we start the risk reduction process, which we outsource the drain cleaning. Those are the secondary drains that connected to the major drains on the public highway that could go down the riverine area. So, and also we dredge the stream, the Kotu stream along Kotu down to Bundung hotspots area, and we dredge the one from the Sankunsila down to the riverside. So we really definitely prepared for it. Along the way also, NRA started it. You can see it in the major highway, so that if there is rainwater could easily passage through this main drains down to the riverine. So these were the expectations that we had in order to mitigate to reduce the risk reduction, because when disaster strike, especially in the municipality council, they engage the coordinator. We work hand in glove and do a lot of things. And the beauty about it, as KMC, we have developed this multi-hazard disaster contingency plan, which already has been validated, and it is been documented. It is with us, and we have seen, we have in the list of priority that flash flooding and windstorm is number one, is rate as number one, because these are one of the most severe ones. That
so far, in this case, Bakau and Malanding, as far as you can established are the ones who was affected in your region?
And even Fajikunda, Abuko, and some other areas, but notably the most affected area is Talinding South. Yeah, especially around the Farakon area.
Can you describe what happened?
Anyway, we have seen some rooftops that are partly removed. We have seen others that are completely removed. One of the most critical one that we visited, in fact, the NDMA media team came up, and we were there with the other media house. And if really, even myself, I could not even control myself because the way I saw things. Oh. So some of the families were even housed by neighbors because they could not sleep overnight, and there are a lot of their feeding, their food stuff got destroyed, their clothing and so on.
Indeed. Okay, those are the victims there. Well, talking about victims as you described there, Talinding, we will go over again to our team of Fatou team. Of course, we are very busy also going around and checking on the preparations and the extent of the devastation on the victims around mostly in West Coast area among other places. So let's have a listen to these victims telling their ordeal as a result of this devastation.
Suto la keta. By that time, the Syrian journey was for around 12 months. Kata one kam. For your starter, the Lorin journey, na baranda to Mandung. Na journey wilta. Bila wilta reka label nde. Atambita tata jolan jana. So nyinda tita wata da jolan jana. Kono to bagaso mimbije besinanta. Because ndam mandam. Nyin China nga nyinda komanda kabona sifo pour kanam mako ndo madam. So ndam mana biya nina musol la manin dingol. So na bagasol midbije man don fanga jange ke boto kono le no. So e be sinanta mano min famba kono tol fanam be sinanta. So barbirim fano keta alhamdulillah rabbil alamin ba ala tentola because man satalla atela ala kuolke. So jonta tambino la wala bar karamo mba tentola mba jayla. Ko birim ko keta nga correct immediately afutatam male. Amanna dindi ya jiba amanna fen jiba nata afutatam ma ayna jan sofia fa pareta akonya ko be gal kumandila nanni yena ifane ya jibe mba anim barala wala tol min fanan do ko lan bar fanan nim barala mba falale ko albedo ko min ala ma do ko yurwala ala ma do ko soni ala bulu moy hamina ko mo fem fende ala mari ala ma kelal be birin jam fo KMC fo dawoda man sakunda dawoda bedu ala mo be
Councilor Karamos is a councilor for Talinding Southward. Just since yesterday night, we received so many calls from different people within my ward here that they have issues. Some of them, they lose their roof. They don't have any place to sleep and so on. Since yesterday night around 12, we were in the field with the members of my VDC, and then we contacted the Lone Mayor, the National Disaster Management Agency, KMC, and then thank God they all respond. Since in the morning we are on an assessment, we assessed around 10 compounds currently that are badly affected. And then this Dramakunda too, they are also part of the compound too that are badly affected. And then we are urging all parastatals in the Gambia here or institutions that can come to the aid of this family to support them so that they can have a shelter. Thank you.
Around 10 compounds currently that are badly affected.
Yes, just a feel of what you have been describing in Talinding. We've seen those people lamenting definitely the ordeal they had to go through as a result of the devastation there. Okay, Mr. Jaiteh, yes, you were talking about the climate change and some of the things it can bring about, such as irregular or change rain patterns and a spike in the speed or heaviness of winds, etc., etc. Some of those things are the features we can expect when it comes to climate change. Now, in the Gambia here, you as an environment scientist, you have been experiencing the first, or let's say, signals of climate change, affecting the Gambia. What exactly were the first indications, according to your observation, of the presence of climate change in the Gambia? Of course, this storm is one clear example that came a little bit too late, but what were the early indications, early warning systems that you have observed?
Well, I may not have been very observant when it all began, because really the very early, I would say, memory of things changing was in the 70s.
The 1970s.
When we had experienced a big drought.
Okay.
You know, and
that affected the Sahel.
The Sahel, and that led to, you know, the formation of seals.
Yes.
You know, and of
and the
course,
promotion of tree planting.
Yeah. So from that time on, you know, we have really more or less shifted from what used to be in the 60s.
Yes.
To what.
And then there was this
70s.
famous Banjul Declaration declared by Saddam Hussein.
Yeah. Those were those were in the 80s,
yeah.
Quite close to the 80s. But it's really. That was more or less the beginning, and in fact, it's a global phenomenon. This is really not just Gambia or the Sahel.
Exactly.
So, as time proceeded, it became clearer that most of these things that we saw as single events are actually interconnected.
Okay.
You know, and we had global meetings, and I mean, I wasn't there before, but at least there were global meetings, and some started studying, like myself. We started reading about what's going on in the southern part of Africa, what is happening in the eastern part of Africa, what's happening on northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. So then it became really clear that this is actually a global warming issue, i.e. temperatures over the last 50 years have been gradually increasing, and in fact it's been increasing faster over the last 10-15 years than the very first 30 years of that 50 years. You know, so it's really become kind of, it's a runaway train or not. And then that's the time when people started really focusing on the nitty-gritty of what does it mean for the rest of the world, or what does it mean for our individual locations. And I was part of a study in 2011 that looked at what does climate change and development really mean for the Gambia. You know, and then it became clear that these droughts that we call droughts could be more frequent and in fact severe over the coming years, because that's what the models, scientists modeling, looked at both temperature and rainfall and saw. And we also looked at, we also looked at the frequencies of these winds, the intensities of these winds. We've seen that they are coming more and more frequent, and of course the vulnerability of that was assessed. That is, if there are winds, which part of the country would be most affected? If there are floods, which part of the country? And of course this is really how it became. And of course the NDMA, since its inception, have been learning. And I must say, this particular event, they've got top.
The response was swift.
Very swift
and
very to the point. Wow. I mean, there is no doubt that the team understood what it was as early as Thursday morning. They understood what it was like, and I'm happy that they were able to mobilize not just themselves, but the entire government. And at a cabinet level for the country to really see this is important. But of course, it's just response to already a very expensive evening. You know, this may be one of the most expensive days in Gambia's history.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's true that, you know, we count 3,000, but those are the ones that are not living in their houses. I mean, how many of us have lost a wall, cement wall? How many have lost 2 or 3 corrugated sheets?
Absolutely.
How much does that cost? You know, how much will that be if we count it all for the whole year? You know, I mean, it may be more than what we can even raise by our entire farming season.
Exactly.
You know, so it's a very expensive event, and it's definitely going to be very difficult for us to recover quickly.
So when you talk about, these kind of things coming as a result of environment change, you naturally talk about mitigations. You know, in the Western world or in the advanced world, they will talk about, let's cut emissions, emissions of carbon dioxide, etc., things that pollute the environment. But in the Gambia, where you don't have big industries, or where we don't have problems like machines or, things that pollute the environment or probably emit carbon monoxide, etc., what should be the focus of our mitigating strategies as a country?
Oh, we don't talk mitigation anymore.
Really?
We talk of adaptation. You know, and in fact, that's the reason why we have this large-scale ecosystem adaptation project, EBA, that we are doing.
Exactly.
It is clear that Gambia is one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change globally. If you count countries,
why is that so?
Yeah, we'll come to that. Okay. When you count countries from the most vulnerable to the ones that are most, Gambia is in the top 10. In Africa, we are definitely in the top 5.
Why is that so?
Primarily because of our geography. You know, we are in the Sahel. We live in a country that is determined by flat topography and connected to every part of the country is connected to the sea without any interruption. And what that means is the River Gambia, being such a great resource, has become one of our biggest liabilities in this climate change era, because as reductions in rains come in, sink in, more and more of our land is being taken over by the sea, because there is also increase in sea level. So the councillor would tell you that Talinding Farokono and adjacent areas, including Abuko, are totally inundated. In some ways, they are in a bowl that is rising slowly. Water is rising in those bowls. Many of those compounds will be lost. So it's just we cannot turn off River Gambia, or we cannot turn off the sea level rise. So that's why Gambia is one of the few that are moving forward to adaptation. How do you adapt now is the question.
Exactly. So we've now moved on mitigation, because that's obviously we can't do anything.
We can't do much.
So, but for adaptation, you said exactly what are the steps being taken. For example, you operate. I know from the private sector, but you are very much familiar with government's initiatives. What is the government doing?
Well, I am part of government because this project that I'm running is a government-run project. It is funded by Green Climate Fund that came out of the Paris Agreement.
Paris Agreement, yes.
At the same time, it is the Ministry of Environment that's also managing this project. And it is really, even though I am project manager, I'm really part of the ministry and the extension of the ministry. And what we have determined, and what scientists determine across the world, that there are those countries that can easily build big walls and have big machines and pump out whatever the sea level comes. Whenever the sea level comes, they can pump it out. Gambia cannot do that. We don't have the means, we don't have the power. There are those countries that also can actually bring big machines and put desalination plants and take out the salt and pump out the fresh water. Gambia cannot do that.
I see.
So what is Gambia? What can Gambia do? We say, well, plant trees. Because if you plant more trees wherever you are, first the impact of temperature, micro level, that is at local level, would be slowly reduced. The impact of wind gusts and others will also be reduced. The impact of droughts and access to water issues will be reduced, because more trees you have, the more of those components that also help.
Okay, but let me just, not to interrupt you here. Okay, we have this tree planting and the preservation of forest parks, etc., and all those things are not just to preserve, wildlife, but of course to, like you said, to mitigate things like environmental hazards. But over the years, we have seen some of these parks are lost to settlements. Especially in the Greater Banjul area, you know of parks, or forests gradually disappearing into residents and so on. Aren't all these things captured, or considered by government agencies in terms of the adaptation measures you are talking about?
That is the nature of management. That is a management problem.
Yes.
In terms of our inability to control where people settle, that is something that is perhaps a very serious weakness in the government's activities. Because before 1990, there was a land use map of Combo, one that says these are areas you cannot settle. These are areas you can settle.
Yes.
If you have in a community and you want to expand, these are the areas that can be used as industry. These are areas that can be used as settlement.
Yes.
That's why you have Canifing industrial area, and then the estates come in. And also a place that is very familiar, but nobody knows why it is. That is buffer zone.
The buffer zone.
Buffer zone, I remember as a young guy in forestry, was really that area that would be a buffer between the settlements.
I see.
That's what makes it buffer zone.
Yeah.
But of course,
but do we really know that? No, do they exist in fact?
Well, the fact is, subsequent government did not respect that. Okay, I mean, those were the 80s.
Can you tell us example of one buffer zone between communities? Like, are they in form of forest or uncultivated land?
Unfortunately, there is one buffer zone that is uncultivated, but it's a football field.
Well, that is secondary, yes.
Yeah, I mean, so that's that.
So that's
but what is tragic, of course, is that many governments still believe, that is, our government still believe that going to that open area is easier than dealing with that owner.
I see.
So we end up really going for that easy shot, but that easy shot is eating up us. I mean, there are some serious impacts that we are not seeing right now. I mean, this storm is a very acute, I mean, it's an acute event. It's something that hits, you feel it. But there are those that are slowly building that we are not seeing. You go to settlements in Bundung. Where is the place where anybody can go and have a rest on a very 100-degree or 40-degree temperature day?
Not available.
There isn't.
Perhaps they can. Perhaps I mean the man from KMC can.
I mean, that's
hardly
right. And you know, if you move from Malanding, you can go all the way to Sabiji. You will not find.
You will not find enough.
You know, and that is, we are seeing that erosion of open places, mainly because of management. It's not climate. That's really management issue. So essentially, yes, those are things that is government's issues. If government works so hard on it, yes, it's hard to move people, but there are certain things that if you don't do the hard thing, it will come back to you. Over the years to outside the settled areas, you know, there were signs that things are getting bad in climate, and those are the furrows.
The rice
fields, the wetlands.
Yes.
It used to be that even Bundung and Malanding had rice fields.
Exactly.
Okay, but many of those rice fields have been taken over by salt. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the rising sea level that, because Gambia is a country, flat country. If sea level rises, water has to go flow somewhere.
Exactly.
And the water is flowing, and it's the salt water that is flowing. And wherever in the river the salt water hits, every adjacent land next to the river also gets it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so those are things that we have very little control over. But of course, we are now thinking, especially within our project, what can we do with those flooded areas? Those areas that were rice field in Badibu, Kiang.
In Kiang. When I was young, I used to go to rice fields just very near the river. And I mean,
but now they are all.
They are all dry. Nobody goes there.
But we are trying to look at planting mangroves.
Okay.
Mangrove forest would be a happy place, and would be very happy in a flooded, salty place.
I saw something like that in Kiang, after the bridge, after the Brumen Bridge.
Just before Sankandi.
Yes, before Sankandi.
Yes, but we are expanding that. I mean, this year alone, we would plant another 150 hectares.
Okay.
There are many areas outside Kiang, even in Jara, or even, you can even go.
And do you mean in the long run, those rice fields can be
they will
cultivate?
Eventually, they will be, because if you can't grow rice in them, you cannot just sit and look at the water.
I see.
But if you bring in mangroves, they will bring in some kind of diversity. They will bring in fish populations, shell populations, and of course, that will also mean, yes, people must live differently. Okay, the Kiangas must start thinking of how do they work in the mangroves. But you know, but at the same time, you know, it's going to be a livelihood. You know, so the ecotourism that you see in Combo here may eventually get there because we have mangrove forests and there bird watching and other things. So those kind of livelihood changes are the strategies that are in place by the government and of course by the Green Climate Fund to really put those things back into use, primarily promoting tree growth.
All right, we will now go over back to the press conference. Of course, that was like you said, set up immediately in the aftermath of the disaster. We'll now hear from the Gambia Red Cross Society. I think this is veteran Alassane Senghor, if I'm right. Let's have his insights as to what has been the Red Cross role since the disaster started or happened on Wednesday.
What we did as Red Cross was basically to review our standard operating procedures. In the past, our response time used to be 48 hours or at least 24 hours. Now this time around we said we're going to close that gap so that our response time would be in the first few hours of the disaster. So we have been responding since Saturday last week together with the NDMA and the other partners under their leadership in URR, CRR and LRR. So we have teams that have been sent out. Now, as he rightly put it, the chair of the ceremony, we have been doing this business and it's our core business. So one of the things that we have developed is whilst we assess, we also respond with some life-saving material that would help the families. And this NDMA was very helpful in working with us in that. So we have been distributing as we went along some non-food items which include blankets and mats and hygiene kits and other items so that families who are hosted or housed by other community members would have adequate bedding to house them. Now, as he rightly said, data is being collected and it's increasing by the hour. So this is not the normal windstorm that we used to have, and that's what I would like to reiterate here, that this is not the normal one. And secondly, even if we are going to respond, we need to take into consideration some of the critical things in terms of the disaster management continuum process, where we look at the immediate needs, the recovery phase, but also looking at ahead in terms of how our development practices can factor in strengthening the resilience of the community so that even if we have bigger and stronger windstorms tomorrow or next year, or may God forbid, their houses would be able to withstand that disaster. What we did as Red Cross was basically to review our standard.
There we have it, Alassane Senghor of Gambia Red Cross. Like you were saying, of course, they too had a very impressive response mechanism, particularly to this incident, not so?
Yes, there's no doubt. I mean, this occasion, of course, it's as disastrous and as tragic as it is, you know, has really pulled out the best so far. You know, although we should also have in mind that this is just the first, you know, and when disaster hits, yes, you go for the hurt, the dead, you know, the death and, you know, the destroyed, then you put things together slowly, and of course you start looking up to what can we do to avoid some of these things. Essentially, as I said, climate change is real. We are not going to be able to easily avoid it, but there are many things that we can do to prevent or to reduce the impact. That is, in other words, to build our resilience to those threats. When it comes to the damage, for instance, my first glance, I did not really have the opportunity and of course the privilege of seeing what Director Dahaba and Senghor directors have, but I can easily say that one of the biggest elements that has cost most is the corrugated iron roof.
the corrugated iron roof.
Yes. I mean, this is a material, building material that was for the longest time seen as a very easy to get and often semi-permanent, and is very useful at some level. But as things change, we've got to recognize that the environment is changing. And we may need to do certain things in order to prevent, or at least to build resilience in a little bit. So that particular material may, or its use must be reconsidered in many ways.
Are you suggesting that we should reconsider how materials we use in roofing our houses? Because, like you said, of course, reports indicated that some of the victims were really either hit or injured by corrugated iron sheet, and of course, trees falling on people.
The bigger kind of roofs, for instance, that are in Combo here, did not even feel it.
Yes,
like I mean, there are a lot of buildings here in Combo that are all intact because it's not corrugated iron sheets. Okay, so
what are they then?
Well, they're usually either cement roofs.
Yeah, but that may be too expensive.
No. I'm not saying everybody must have that. Okay. But essentially, you look at your vulnerabilities. Okay, your vulnerabilities as a country. Our vulnerabilities as a country is that almost 90% or 95% of all our buildings in the rural areas are in this material.
Yes.
And it then would, I mean, it's no brainer to understand that when the next storm hits
again,
the same problem would happen. And it's a very expensive item to replace.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we cannot allow ourselves, because it's too costly, to say, well, we must go for this cheap, that is going to break anyways. So we have to start redesigning our building structures too. I mean, I would say again, not so old a guy, some 50 years ago, we had different types of building materials, different types of building designs. I mean, Banjul had its famous Crinton.
Yes, that's true.
And I mean, the rural areas had their famous, straw houses, and thatch roofs.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yes, it takes away your roof, but it does not kill. I mean, so I mean, essentially, those are things that have evolved because of certain environmental conditions. We have to, now that we are here, we need to evolve. And our evolution here, as far as I know, is that our neighboring, we should just look over at our shoulder. Yeah. I mean, you have less corrugated iron sheets.
Yes. But that's probably the easiness, or perhaps the, I mean, building materials, stuff like what you were suggesting could be resilient to this kind of things, cement, concrete, and so to be cheaper there than here. So it's a problem of social and economic capacity, but then it is really important to highlight that perhaps if we change the method, if we have the means, of course, we change the methods of how we build the houses, all those can help in mitigating against kind of.
I believe when there is the will, there will be a way.
There'll be a way.
I mean, we are not a country that should be caught in, we stay with what we have because we cannot afford the other things.
Yes.
Our scientists, our builders, our construction engineers should be at work right now to say what is it that we can do, because I have no doubt we have enough some wood like mangrove that will withstand, and you don't have to have a total. I mean, I'm not in building.
Okay.
So I cannot really claim that this is the type that but it has to change.
I will put more experts questions to you later. But he talked about mitigating the simple things like tree planting, or perhaps in your area that may not be applicable, restoring the rice fields with mangroves, etc., etc. But when it comes to tree planting and other mitigating or adaptations in your KMC, how do you go about it? How large scale or popular now is tree planting, and how many parks do you have? You talk about a lack of open space, only buffer zone, etc.
Yes. As you may see right now, we are rehabilitating the buffer zone.
Yes.
And there is cause for, you can see the sign that we'll be planting trees there. It's a form of trying to beautify the area. And even if you go in the city center, across Westfield, you are seeing what we are doing. And we are working with organization group like Clean Up Gambia. So, at some time council have to engage them to do some kind of tree planting in other areas along the major highways like the Batil Hardin, and even far end at Abuko, that gentleman you saw there, Nozzin or so on, we give him the space so that not only council will go and do it, but individual will buy it from him and trying to build up such kind of things. And when it comes to the mangrove, let's say the parks and wildlife are doing good, but in terms of the problem of the riverine area connecting from Bakau down to Abuko, we have a problem. That's what he said, and that is true. That's the management problem. For us as a council, we're trying to see what we can do in order to avoid problems like this occurring, because end of the day it is the council that is going to invest and including other stakeholders to support to do this thing. So where necessary that we can use other means in order to reduce, that's why we go in for cleaning the drains, opening the canals, so that at least water would have access. But in terms of wind, you have seen even if you go along the riverine area, people are cutting mangroves, even expanding inside the river,
So
trying to
what did you do as
so
council?
that has something. I don't want to call departments, because here I'm in the capacity of KMC, but along the way we are all stakeholders. We need to work as a team, because the council owe it to their people, and the relevant institutions that are responsible should try and collaborate with councils so that we can and we can work towards it to stop people encroaching further into the river. Because during our assessment, these are some of the things that we've seen, we identify, and we talked about. We are doing all means to ensure that such things could stop, because there is this engagement of people who are bent on doing it. But again, the other sector of the stakeholders like Parks and Wildlife is not a forum for me to talk about. But
of course,
they are working, but they are under this thing, how to call it, they don't have the human resource capacity in order to expand in those areas to stop people doing some of these things. But as I say, when this thing even happen, Mayor sent a press release trying to talk about it. So far, the areas that we visited that are affected, almost close to 14 compounds.
People who almost settle in the river.
No. Those that are affected with this windstorm. Okay. But in the river, you can count them in there. You can't even finish counting them. But
but don't you, as an authority, don't you have authority to stop people from habitating them by enlightening them this place is not habitable?
This is why we went and did the assessment alongside with the councillors that are within those areas. We went together and we are working it, because come next year we're going to have a very full scale of outreach program to talk to people, because it has to be a continuous process to ensure that people should not inhabit it deeper into the sea because of some of these the high cost of rent and other related issues and so on. So you can, because end of the day it's always difficult every year the same problem. People who are when flash flooding, occurrence of flash flooding, they'll vacate their homes and go until the dry season they come, so it will not come back again. So authorities that are allowing them to settle, and so we are doing our best to ensure that we bring them and let them be part of the show, so that we can talk to the people and do other preventive measures to not to allow people to go around that area trying to just organize, let's say 10 by 10 or 20 by 20 in order to acquire space in such area, because those are the people, when disaster strike, they want to rely on people. The money they invest there,
areas
it could be used,
Mr. Jaiteh, that are only habitable to dry season. In the rainy season, I see the families have to evacuate, go to somewhere. Where are the authorities?
For us as one of the stakeholders, we are doing our best, trying to ensure that to bring our community leaders through our ward councillors, to bring them together to discuss and do a lot of outreach program to sensitize them, so that they will know that these areas are not inhabitable. because if you go around some part in Malanding, the Joswang Ibo town Farokono, even let's say some kind of 300 meters before the riverine area, even during the dry season, there are still areas that are not motorable, because as he is saying, it is coming from the ground, and so the level of that, that require a lot of things that need to take place. And if that is expensive, I think it's better for us to start inhabited areas that we can settle. But everybody want to stay in the city center and enjoy the social amenities. Definitely, it's going to be a big problem for council to work it out, to be every year, every time started supporting them through the disaster, municipal disaster coordinating agency.
Well, that's KM. Mr. Jaiteh, you have really an experience of a national level. And what do you think are the problems, the vulnerabilities in the various divisions? Let's talk about West Coast. We haven't had much, except perhaps one incident, fatal incident in Busumbalam. So that must have been something falling on the victims, either rooftop or trees. There were very many incidents of trees falling on people and their houses. Yet you encourage tree planting. But trees, we have seen the trees that have been planted in our doorsteps have ended up falling on people and killing them. So I don't know. What do we do? How do we go about it?
Yes. Well, it is true that when you plant a tree, there is a risk to that tree.
Exactly.
That is to you in some ways.
Yeah.
But often that's still management problem, because most of the time we sense that a tree is unsafe. It's just that we don't try to help it. We don't try to manage it until a disaster like this
happens. Yes.
Okay. So generally, what we normally say, and the EBA project has already started the conversation that there is a minimum number of trees in every situation. Let's just get to that minimum and see what happens. What that means is it can be 1 or 2 trees in a residential place. If you are to do that, you have to then identify what type of trees are for residential dwelling. What type of trees are for highways? What type of trees are, so all of those trees are there. It's just that we don't understand, and sometimes we don't even go far enough, to be able to identify the real type of tree that will.
Most people's attitude is trees that don't bear fruits that we eat are useless.
Yes, most of them, but not me.
He's a seasoned forester. He knows that.
No, but you know what? That minimum tree cover concept, is one that we hope one day will become a part of the our policy. That if you get your new land, new piece of compound, and you start building, at minimum you need a bathroom for convenience. At minimum you need a roof over your head for everybody's convenience and health. You should also be required as part of that building to have at least 1 tree, or at least 2 trees. Depending on where you are, you can easily say how many trees, but it's very difficult. But we should be able to have a minimum. There used to be building codes in this country. I was once talking to an engineer, and he said most residential places you should not build more than 60% of the land. That is, your house should not be more than 60% of your compound footprint.
Exactly.
Well, what would the 40% be for?
Should be trees and plant or crops.
Exactly. So those were there.
That is of course when there are big lands. But now,
even now.
When I have 25 by 25, where will I?
You still have 40% of that. You can take 1 coconut if you are in Combo, somewhere around Brookwood, or 2, or a mango, or something else. But again, it really comes down to codes, building codes, and those. There may be 1 or 2 cases where trees fall on compounds. But most of the villages that are saved, especially in rural areas, are those that are surrounded by old baobab trees.
Old baobab trees.
because those have big root systems. They are giants. They control the wind, or they stand the wind. I would say they don't control it. But so we have to learn to know what trees are good for where. And essentially what we are now doing is we are expanding tree planting within communities, open spaces, roadsides. Then we are encouraging backyard planting. Then we go to farmland planting. At least few trees on your farm, because when you look at the whole patchwork of where trees are, when wind starts, they break the wind. It doesn't have to be one row of trees. In fact, often that one row of trees would fall. But if you have a big tree here, a big tree there, they actually disrupt the flow. And that's the time when we can have maximum benefit. So it is possible that if we increase the number of trees within our spaces, not just our forest, we should be able to have enough to reduce this kind of damages.
Thank you very much. Well, since the incident occurred too, the Gambia government, even the highest level, has also made some pronouncements and interventions. President Barrow yesterday crossed over to see for himself and to get first-hand information as to the state of damages, particularly in the North Bank region, where we are told 9 people lost their lives and a lot of properties were damaged. The President also called an emergency meeting at which measures were discussed as far as government strategy would be to coordinate and mobilize assistance, relief assistance, that is, to the people affected. He also made a statement on national television about the issue. We will take a listen.
Fellow Gambians and residents, these are challenging times for us as a nation. As a predominant farming country, we always look forward to the rainy season with excitement. However, we are also conscious that the season may come with some natural disasters. As the rainy season starts this year, we are beginning to experience such unfortunate calamities. Last Wednesday night's thunderstorm, accompanied by lightning and heavy winds that downed electric poles, destroyed buildings, uprooted trees, and littered our streets and communities with debris. Above all, it is most regrettable that our report recorded 10 deaths across the country due to the storm. On behalf of the government and the entire nation, I commiserate with all those affected directly or indirectly. In particular, I extend heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families for the sad loss of lives. And I pray for solace for those who suffer damage to property. In the same vein, I pray for the speedy recovery of all those injured and their loved ones who perished in the storm to rest in eternal peace. I wish to inform all citizens and residents of the country that my government is fully aware of the scale of the damage caused by this natural tragedy. We have since taken immediate steps to redress the situation. Working with the National Disaster Agency, NDMA, and the relevant line institutions, the government has activated the country's emergency preparedness and response plan. The National Disaster Management Agency staff deployed around the country are working tirelessly to assess the full extent of the damage, and they are instituting measures to mitigate the effect of this natural disaster. Based on an NDMA preliminary assessment report, the storm destroyed property worth millions of dollars and injured many people, apart from claiming 10 lives. I appeal to all citizens and residents, all corporate bodies, and our development partners to work with the NDMA on disaster risk mechanisms and support the victims. Fellow Gambians, agriculture is vital for our food security and survival. At the same time, we also benefit from it for subsistence. Therefore, I will seize this opportunity, as I always do, to call on the youth and the able-bodied citizens to engage in agriculture as a business venture. It is also worth noting that we can improve environmental sanitation by maintaining waterways clear of debris and garbage. My government will urge the Department of Physical Planning to learn lessons from the poor planning of all settlements, and in the future plan new communities better, taking account of waterways and proper drainage systems. In conclusion, I reiterate my call for support and solidarity with the victims of the storm as they rebuild their lives and livelihoods. I thank you for your kind attention. Fellow Gambia.
President Barrow there, well, on his comments on the disaster. Well, not only did he, talk as if his government have really recognized the scale of the devastation, but he also mentioned some of the things that he would like to see, parastatals and communities to work with the NDMA as well as the government, not just to provide relief, but to work on measures that can mitigate or, let's say, lessen this kind of trouble. And he said, like you have given your expert opinion on, that some of the things is managing how people settled. He talked about that. So it comes important. So what do you make of his observations?
Well, I think generally he touched all the right places. I mean, there's no doubt. And,
and it must be said now, he should be commended. This time he comes around in real time to address issues. He's been criticized a lot over the past for, keeping too long silent or coming only when it's too late.
But also something that has not really been seen is that this country, Gambia, is one of very few countries, even in Africa, to have a kind of a strategic plan, program for climate resilience, strategic program for climate resilience.
Okay.
I mean, this is supposedly a very well done document that identified most of the vulnerabilities, from capacity in terms of infrastructure, to people, to places, what is needed to be done, and how much it will cost. Of course, this is in the tune of $360 million. So it's not small,
it's a big money.
But it is still better because already if this particular event's cost is counted, it's going to be a lot.
The president said it could be millions. Millions of dollars.
Yeah, so essentially what we are trying to, what that program is trying to do is to find investment opportunities, define investment opportunities. Now it's left to not just government, but also the private sector to realize these are opportunities. Let me give you an example. If you, sometimes wonder, how is all this forest going? We've been planting thousands and thousands of trees every year for the last how many years? Nobody can see anything. The reality is, because of decrease in amount of rains, the rate of growth of trees have slowed down. Okay, so a replacement time for a tree has actually increased.
But what about tree felling? You don't mention.
No, well, hold it. So if you remove one tree now, it will take you a little bit longer to have a tree there.
Exactly.
That's one thing. But the same period, because we have moved from less than 1 million population to now 2.5 million population, we have not changed the way we consume our energy. So fuel wood today is doing more. In fact, 60% of all the wood that is collected from our forest go into firewood and charcoal. So what needs to be done is serious investment in alternative to firewood and charcoal. If you do that, 60% would stay. Who is going to go to the forest, cut down a tree, bring it to combo? For what? If there is nobody buying for charcoal or for charcoal.
When I was young, when I was young and in school, there was this. It was a very, very topical issue at the time: the ban on charcoal. imposed by the regime, Sadawda Jawara. There was a lot of controversy over. What do you make of those kind of policies?
And it's still in place.
It's still in place. Oh,
surprise, surprise!
Oh, wow! I don't notice it because I see charcoal even from here. You see.
Exactly.
But it's not been enforced. Then
it has not been enforced.
Yes.
And it has, of course, brought a chaos in the natural resource management sector, because foresters or those who are responsible for management of forests are told in their books it is banned. Charcoal production is banned. But the last regime had, right after Jawara, made it more or less legal. Because if you, as a young forester or as a small-time officer, you hold somebody with charcoal and you want to put them in somewhere, they are let go the following day. The next thing you know is you slow down.
Yeah.
You don't want the embarrassment. You don't want that kind of thing. So you end up accepting what is not acceptable, and by the time you know it, nobody even knows that it's illegal problem, an illegal problem.
Exactly.
So we have to recognize that, and government, for the future of this forest, must bring in a very important alternative for firewood or charcoal.
Okay.
Without it, that's 60% of our of all the wood will become 80% of all the wood. Because I am totally surprised to find people as far away as Kiandu Bokono producing charcoal. And if you are really surprised by that, go to Woodley today.
Or to Baribo.
No, Baribo has already done their job. They don't need charcoal because there's no forest. But really, the issue of no alternatives. If there is no choice, what do?
Yeah.
You cannot go hungry.
You cannot.
Yeah,
but what can be the alternative? Because you obviously, electricity and gas are expensive beyond everybody's reach.
It is not beyond everybody's
reach. So tell us, how can you replace charcoal or firewood?
This government or any other Gambian government,
yes,
should be able to expand, even if it is loan, the depot in Mandinare to hold liquid propane gas that the urban centers would need.
Can use.
We would not go and import gas 300 miles away.
Okay.
Or 400 kilometers away.
Yeah.
We would only go into 30 kilometers away. So that cost of transportation will be totally off. And you know what? Any day you find a depot there, there will be those among us who will be willing to buy ovens and gas bottles and tell people, oh, you can have it free, just like the cell phone companies are doing. And then they will be charging us while we refill. That industry would be huge. It is not, nobody's going to lose jobs per se. Yeah, the firewood or the charcoal wood, yeah, but they can easily find jobs. Carrying people's bottles,
etc.
Okay, and this country can do that. I mean, I see no reason why you can say we cannot afford it. No, it has to be a focus and a national emphasis, because we cannot afford 5 more years of no alternative firewood. If you do that today, you'd go all the way to Bassett, you will not find charcoal. And at the end, what will we do? People using cow dung?
I know.
Okay, and there are, I mean, that's not the case. So there are priorities, but this is one of them. And the same thing when it comes to settlement decisions. Those are priorities.
Okay.
The whole entire government must realize, no matter how much we want land for building a hotel in Combo, we have to recognize that this is the only piece where you can find something else other than a hotel. People need it. This country will be choked because 60% of the population live in 1,000 square kilometers.
Okay.
You know, we will be choked one day. No place to go and rest, no place to have fresh air. It's going to cause more problems later. So why don't we bite the bullet now and say no to further expansion, at least spatially. You can expand as tall as you want.
Which requires a lot of money. Stop building story buildings.
Well, you know what?
So this race between man's habitation, people's, thirst, unquenchable, thirst for land grabbing, for etc. Contrast it with the needs, for us to preserve forest. Where do you stand? If you talk to people or you talk about the importance of wildlife and forest, others will say, what about if people don't have a place to live?
What I do know is that land ownership or compound ownership in this country is very, very high. That is the proportion of people who have compounds. And I've also looked at land from above. That is, I mean, all my time I look at aerial photos or satellite photos and see how land is utilized. Even in KMC, there are a lot of unused land. Compounds that have only one building for the last 40 years.
Okay.
They have not expanded their use. The footprint is, and that area is just wasting.
I see.
There are compounds that don't have buildings in this place. Yes, what do you do with them? Nothing. It stays there. I mean,
yeah, but if the owners, you buy them from the owners. You
no,
suggest
in other parts of the world that are actually developed.
Okay.
What they do is they monetize. If you have your empty land,
yes,
you pay more for empty land than to develop it for of low cost housing or other things. Eventually, the millionaires will not just be hogging land. They will have to do something with them.
They will have to develop it,
Okay, and that is what really makes differences.
Okay, do you have any such policies in KMC?
Well, one thing is certain that we are not buying the idea of having this empty land in our midst, especially in the business environment.
But they still exist.
You know, yeah, they still exist, but we are pursuing them anyhow we could, because when you look at the debt unit and on the rates, we try to, but some compounds are in family disputes. You know, you never know, the old time owners has gone, and the ones, even the ones that are fighting for that land, they may not be even living in those compounds. You can have many of them. Council is interested to utilize them. We are coming with a lot of things in order to utilize it and make it, you know, live for people to do business also. Because this is why some businessmen took advantage. You know, the Hyderas, you know, those Nigerians around that Lat Kumbalo Trong, you know, they'll buy the land and start building markets around it. Would have been ideal for council to expand more on that, rather than we allow people in the streets. We are working we are doing it. We are doing all our utmost best to see that, you know, we look at into those things, because it's very important that, you know, the owners should come forward and trying to do a kind of development. At least that will maximize our revenue potential, so that, you know, end of the day we'll do more development. So this is what we owe to our people. You know, they employ us, and they voted in our councillors to collect taxes and deliver services. So such a kind of thing should not be in a waste. And I buy Mr. Jaiteh's idea that I think we have to put in policies that those lands that are there unused need to pay high rates, so that the owners, because those are the areas that people will come and dump their waste, and end of the day become a big nuisance, health nuisance to the communities. So, you know, council will put all resources to ensure that it is cleared, and so really I think this is a very new thing that I will pick it up. I hope my mayor is listening. He will start put it in our bylaws that to start hitting them. So, because end of the day we want to develop the council, the Carnifing municipality, because it is the, so far it is the pace setter of all local councils, we all know. So we are moving at a pace that we want other local councils to emulate.
Finally, gentlemen, Mr. Jaiteh in particular, do we have any reason to fear that the events of Wednesday we don't wish, of course, can be repeated? And what preparations should we do? We have, in the history of I tell you, in my lifetime, I've never had, you know, a situation where the windstorms killed 10 people. I have never had it. So I'm worried that the kind of hurricanes or winds that I saw in the United States, in the United Kingdom and Asia, we might just beginning to see some of them here, and looking at our vulnerability, I am scared since Wednesday that if this is going to continue, come on, this country is really going to see less.
You know, I don't know.
Yes,
I mean, that is number one. Wow. But we can also say that we are not alone in this new phenomena, because United States this week, Western United States will experience another heat wave.
And one of the things people said, don't we have mechanisms of knowing about these things? And you know, but even if we do know beforehand, like they do in the United States, evacuate people who might be living on the path of the wind that's coming, we don't have such mechanisms. Do we even have the know-how to forecast strong winds are coming.
For now, no. The reason why it's hard is this. You have to have some data as to last time it was like this and this happened, so this time if it happens it may happen the same way.
Yes, yeah.
We never had that kind of recording system.
Oh, I see.
Okay, it's only recent that we have a kind of a national expansion of met stations.
Okay.
They are not that up to date in terms of real-time measurements and also serious monitoring. That's capacity.
But what we do here in some our own departments of weather, forecasting weather, all those things you want to say.
It is true. You can do that.
Yes.
You can forecast that it will be, it's going to be a storm. Like last year, I was very impressed when we had a near, I would say rainstorm. I mean, when I say storm, in terms of actually coming with a lot of wind, not just a little bit of gust, but a lot of rain. Until they warn populations that this Saturday and Sunday could have higher than normal rainfall, so please stay out.
Stay out.
That kind of real-time warnings will slowly creep into our system. I have no doubt that there are other phenomena that are easier to forecast. For instance, during the dry season we have another windstorm, kind of windstorm, but this time it comes with dust. The dust storm can be tracked. You can see where it's going, how far it is, and how fast it is, just like the rainstorms. What you don't know is if a wind gust comes here, who is going to be the most? We are yet to bring our predictions, our forecasts all the way to that level. We are not yet there.
Details,
that's something that the country does not. But it is generally believed that if we are to go for anything, it's got to be adaptation. We have to find a way of increasing our trees and make sure we have the right choice of trees. And the more trees you have, you will hit that tip where winds will not break buildings. Trees alone protect each other. I mean, when they're alone, they can't. But when they are together, they protect each other. So the cover must be at a certain threshold to enable that. And that, of course, would then help us as a population. We believe government can push that by implementing the right policies, especially the minimum tree cover policy, which is one that encourages everybody to really say, wherever you are, that at least that 1 tree, please.
In fact, the JAS report is out. Normally, they do have what we call the JAS report, called the July, August, and September. The predictions about how the rainy season, the wind and whatsoever look like. As he said, we haven't reached there, but sometimes some of these things need to start working on it in bits until you are there. Even now in this digital world, because at one time I remember my brother in the United States, he told me something that I said, hey, we are in the rain. He just click and send me, at this time your environment will be like this, So I think they can work on that, expand so that people can have it, a kind of app, that will, because one time one of my director, that they said that somebody informed that they saw there will be this kind of heavy downpour or wind or whatsoever, and she wasn't informed through discussion. But later when she went, this thing happened and said, wow, hadn't been I know that I wouldn't have gone out, I would have stayed at home. I just want to say what he's saying, so that we need to know all these things. This all geared towards sensitization in a very aggressive manner. Even whatever projects or whatever we are doing, there is this sensitization, and make people to take the ownership, so that engage through consultations. We have the line structures that are within our communities, our agencies, our the management structures, and so along the line, people will begin to understand. So that at least end of the day, when moving, that there is this thing going to happen, you have to step back and stay safely and guide your families. So these are some of the things that we need to look at.
Indeed. Dodou Jallow from the KMC's public service, responsible for disaster response. Thank you very much for sharing your views about this particular incident with us here on the Brunch. And of course, many more thanks to our expert in the room, Malanding Jaiteh, an environment scientist. Thank you very much, Mr. Jaiteh, for
most welcome.
And I hope of course we'll have more of you in the coming days as the government, of course through the NDMA, assessed and provide relief package for our people. Of course, like we said, today we are coming, and the topic has been environment, because on Wednesday 10 people lost their lives and thousands were displaced, and millions of dollars is worth of damage caused to people's houses and properties across the country. We will be back next week. Until then, we wish you a very quiet and perhaps really wind-free weekend.
Thank you.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibaram.
For all your pastry, bakery and quality food, CK Restaurant is the only place to be. We do catering for birthdays, weddings and all related services. We have all kinds of local foods, American, European and even beyond. Come and have a taste of our local juice, ebe and other services. At CK Restaurant, customer satisfaction is our priority.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as wow delivery service brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.